Investors have deep pockets. They know that they're going to gut the whole house. If they open up the walls and find this, that, they have a budget for that. A first-time home buyer does not. So I would walk away from that house and keep looking as opposed to waiving that home inspection, because it could be a big, costly surprise when you get in that property.
Welcome to the Aid to Assets podcast, the ultimate podcast for aspiring real estate investors. I'm your host, Tiffany Watson. Join me as we discuss real estate investing for 9-to-5ers. We'll talk about everything from money mindsets and property ownership and different strategies you can use to invest in real estate. I want to empower investors, especially those of us who are working full-time, who want to navigate the world of real estate, uncover the secrets to building wealth, generate passive income to achieve financial freedom. Equip yourself with resources from experts, practical tips, and step-by-step guides on how to kickstart your real estate journey. We'll also hear from 9-to-5ers who started to build their own portfolios, what they did and how they did it, so you can do it too. Tune in and transform your main job into your biggest silent investor in your real estate investment business. This is your Aid to Assets. Hi, everyone, and welcome to an episode of the Aid to Assets podcast. Here, we help 9-to-5ers who want to get started in real estate investing and scale their portfolios by interviewing others that have already done it and the people who help them do it. So today, I am so excited for my guest. We are going to make sure that the house that you purchase is the right one that you need. So will you go ahead and introduce yourself, tell the people who you are and what you do.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jacqueline Gathers. I'm a New York State licensed home inspector and owner of Pillar to Post Home Inspection.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today. So before we even jump into the nitty-gritty of the conversation, I want to make sure people know why they should be listening to you. So y'all go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button because you are going to learn so much. So tell me, Pillar to Post, how long have you been in business?
Oh, wow. I started my business in 2018. So I've been in business 5 years. I actually have a 2-member team of inspectors. I spend my time teaching first-time home buyers the importance of having a quality home inspection done.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wonderful. And so now when you first started your inspection business, there weren't many people like us in the game. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Okay, so backstory. My late husband actually bought the franchise, but I lost him to cancer in 2017 before he had an opportunity to launch. So my why is different from other people's why. My why was to get the business up and running in his honor. So I knew nothing about the home inspection industry. I had no idea that the home inspection industry, I call it a secret society, was a white male dominated industry. And I just jumped in. I knew I was going to get this business up and running. And I had a hard time initially. Most home inspectors don't look like me. They're not female. They're not African American. So when I would show up for my inspection, they would kind of look at me and, look at my uniform. And I guess they thought I was some assistant or whatever. And they would say, well, where's the inspector? And I would tell them I am the inspector. So it took a little getting used to.
Wow, that is amazing. And so if I'm correct, you were the first to start. Is that right?
I'm the only African American female home inspector in New York, one of the first, and I'm the first African American woman to own a Pillar to Post.
Wow, that is absolutely amazing. It still blows my mind the fact that we are 2023, you started your business in 2018, and we are still crossing off list of first and being the only. But we are so grateful for the trailblazers who make the way for others to come and follow. So you talked about your why is different from others. And so before we even jump into the business side of things, into the real estate side of things, I want to double click on that because a lot of people, they may not have given some consideration as to even about their why. What makes your why? How did you hold on to that why? Because I can imagine that things did not always go smoothly, were not always like you planned. And so what was the significance of having that why?
Well, you know, we all have an assignment, okay? We've all been an assignment. And some people fight their assignment, they don't follow their assignment. Initially, I did not want to launch the business because I've never ran a business before. I actually retired after 30 years of service with the New York City Housing Authority. So I had reservations about this. And I prayed on it and I said, I don't think I want to do this. I don't know a lot about the industry. And God said, do it for him. So that was the end of that. I knew I had to get the business up and running. And I always tell people in the entrepreneurship world that you have to study the why, because your why can't be money. You can make money doing anything, but when you're walking in your purpose and you're completing your assignment and you're following your why, the money's gonna come. That's not a big issue. So it's really important when you sit down and you want to start a business that you have a powerful why, because that why keeps you going. My first year, I didn't make much money, but I wasn't giving up because I had a powerful why. And I just kept going and kept going. And eventually people were like, oh, that lady inspector in Brooklyn, and business started to grow. And, they saw that I was good at what I did and I knew what I was talking about. And after a while, my color and my gender was not really an issue. I was just a good inspector, and they wanted somebody that was going to give them a good inspection. And the other barriers were just like removed.
That is so powerful. The why is what keeps you going. The why is what allows you to stay persistent and endure through those barriers until they no longer exist. Thank you so much for sharing that. And that's just amazing. Congratulations again. The only woman that has a pillar to post, one of the first women of color in the state of New York to own a home inspection business, is no easy task, as you talked about. And so that's just so inspirational that we can still be breaking down barriers for each other, even in this day and age. So talk to us now about your mindset, because you mentioned that this wasn't something that you had any experience in. You weren't an entrepreneur and you hadn't been in the inspection industry. So for many of our listeners, they're in similar boats where they're breaking into new space in the real estate world they have no experience in, and they are starting businesses since they're buying real estate buildings, apartments, properties. They're building a portfolio. So talk to us, what did you need to do in order to help strengthen your mindset to take on this new endeavor?
Okay, well, I'm a rule follower. So I got my license and I studied the craft. I went to other home inspectors' websites. I looked at what they were doing. I looked at services that they were offering. I cold called a couple of them because I kind of wanted to know what I was up against and what my competitors were doing and how could I differentiate myself and make myself stand out so that people would select my home inspection company as opposed to others. And some of the things we do at Pillar to Post, we're the cutting edge of home inspection. We can offer our clients a home inspection that comes with a virtual tour and floor plan, cost estimates. Your average home inspector, they can't do that. So we use a lot of techie equipment, and we're always at the cutting edge of the home inspection industry. And we make sure we separate ourselves from everyone else. Our clients get the report the same day. It's a easy report to read and understand, and we really simplify the process.
Wow, I absolutely love that. That is amazing. And so before even really jumping into this, you had already made the commitment to do it, but just making the commitment, you also wanted to make sure you were prepared. And so really researching and being a student of the business that you were going to take part of is something that we definitely want to make sure listeners lean into. This is an ongoing thing. One of my favorite things about real estate, there's always something to learn. And so being committed not just to whatever we're doing, but also the learning of it is really, really critical.
It's very
Now, what was
important because You don't want to give people secondhand information. You want to make sure that the information that you're giving them, you know what you're talking about. You know, you're not repeating something from some social media influencer or anything like that. Because, you know, some people are there for the glamour and the lights, and they really don't know what they're talking about as far as your craft is concerned. So you want to make sure that you study your craft and you understand what you're doing so that you can give people accurate information.
Now you gotta get us together. Talk about it. There is so much. It's so easy in this time of in the internet, social media, to pull stuff together from people and just kind of regurgitate the information. But if we don't truly understand why we are giving the information, what's going on behind it, how to implement it, people, it is going to show at some point. You tell the tree by its fruit. And so you may have the branches to share some of the information, but you don't have the fruit of the results. It is definitely going to make a difference. So that is good. Now, you mentioned that you worked for the housing authority before you switched and became an entrepreneur. Was there any impact in what you had already seen with the housing authority that helped you as you made this transition?
Oh, absolutely. I had been on roofs. I had been in boiler rooms. I saw the plasterers do work, the plumbers, all the skills trades. One of the things that we do with our families that are purchasing multifamily houses, I always have a side conversation with them about being a landlord. And I always tell them, you know, people glamorize being a landlord, but there's an ugly side to being a landlord too, like when that tenant doesn't pay. So I always talk to them about who's going to manage the property. I always encourage them, if you can, to use a property management company as opposed to collecting rent yourself, and let them manage the property and let the rent go someplace else. Make sure you have 6 to 8 months worth of mortgage payments in the bank, because believe it or not, a lot of people lost their homes during the pandemic because they didn't have 3 months worth of mortgage payments in the bank. So one of the things I do in the education part is I have a conversation with that family about, okay, you got the house, you got your inspection done, but you want to keep this house. So instead of going out buying brand new furniture or a new car, accumulate 6 to 8 months worth of mortgage payments in the bank. Live in your home first, study your home before you jump into renovation projects. Because we have clients, they rip out all the cabinets, and then after they've been in the home 6 months, they realize, you know what, I should have replaced the boiler, or I should have done something in the basement. So we always have a conversation with them about where you should start repairs and what that looks like. But the savings part is always important to make sure, because anything can happen with income. If you have that money in the bank, you want to make sure that you keep that property.
Absolutely. I love that. The savings part is definitely critical because you want to have that cushion. Yes, the goal is for other people to be paying our mortgages for us, but we know stuff happens. And so in New York, also, it's not very easy to evict a tenant if they're not paying. Is that right?
Oh, New York courts are definitely tenant resident friendly. You know, that's why a lot of investors prefer to go to Alabama or North Carolina. After 30 days, you don't pay your rent, your stuff is in the street. A court case in housing in New York City could last a year, 2 years, 3 years.
Wow. Wow, I had no idea. I knew it was tough, but I didn't know it was that tough. So that is something definitely for listeners to keep in mind, thinking about where you're going to invest. And so shout out to my North Carolina investors. That's always, that's my home. And so that's a soft spot for me. But we are we are not a tenant friendly state. We are a landlord friendly state. And so Alabama is another one that's amazing. I know a lot of investors that focus on there. So making sure you understand the laws that impact your investing in your business, so that way you can be proactive and get in front of it. So we have the savings that we need to make sure that we need to understand where we're investing and what the laws are in place. And now you also talked about the landlord versus the property manager. Tell us a little bit more, especially when you're working with new investors, what they should consider with those two.
Okay, so with property management, you're going to pay a small fee, but it's money well spent, because if the tenant doesn't pay the rent, the property manager, they initiate the legal action. They track all that. You know, they make sure they're recycling. They're responsible for the snow removal. Maybe they have a handyman contract out to for little repairs. So it makes the process, it takes a lot off of you, especially if you're a two career headed household, you have small kids. Who has time for that? So it's just, to me, especially as a new landlord, I think it just makes a lot of sense to do that.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's definitely something that I advise my clients. My coach talks a lot about solopreneurship versus entrepreneurship. And for many of us, when we think about entrepreneurship, it's really solopreneurship because we're trying to do all the things by ourselves. And again, we are running a business. And so employing people to help us successfully do that not only saves us time, but it saves us peace of mind. And so we're not spending that money, but we're investing that money back into our business in order for it to go
Absolutely.
successfully.
Because you can't, if you're doing the business and running the business, and I knew out the gate I was going to hire because I knew I could not grow the business while doing the business. So now my hands have been off of that part of the business. My inspector's duty, I spend my time educating people, marketing, getting out and growing the business. And that's how the business was able to grow. It's difficult to do both. And a lot of times you think you're saving money by not hiring that virtual assistant, but the time is money. You have an expertise. You want to spend your time doing the expertise. And entrepreneurs have a hard time relinquishing responsibilities. You don't
Yeah.
have to file, honey. You're going to have to keep the books. You don't have to make the phone calls, do the social. You can hire someone to do that. That way, you are spending your time on that talent, that gift that God gave you, and that's how you're going to grow the business. Whatever you can contract out, you contract out.
Listen, you gave a word right there. We cannot grow the business if we are spending all of our time working in the business. That cut that up. That's a clip for us because that is such sound advice. And so many of us find ourselves in that trap and then we're exhausted, especially our listeners here. Most of us are working full-time 9-to-5 jobs. And this is a portfolio that we're working to grow over time to eventually either leave our jobs or possibly just when we get ready to retire. We don't need to be burning the candle at both ends.
No, you don't. And it's not as costly as you think it is. But again, the time that you're spending on those menial tasks, somebody else could do that. And you can spend your time rejuvenating, okay, keeping your creative juices flowing because you're not burnt out from doing everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So now let's get into this inspection part. We're talking about your area of expertise. So first, can you tell our listeners what is the significance of getting a home inspection when they are purchasing a property?
Okay, so I always compare it to purchasing a car. I don't know anyone that purchased a car that did not do a test drive. Why in
Right.
the world would you buy a piece of real estate and not have the protection of a home inspection? No house is perfect. And we explain that to our first time home buyers because we primarily work with first time home buyers. And we make it very clear to them your house is like your body. If my nail is broken, it's not a big deal. I can go to the nail salon, they can make it like new. But if there's a problem with my heart, that's going to affect how my body operates. And this is how we like for them to look at the home. We don't care about holes in the walls. We're not concerned about missing doorknobs or somebody really had poor taste and painted the bathrooms orange. We don't care about that. We're concerned about that roof. We're concerned about the plumbing. We're concerned about the electrical system. We're concerned about your boiler, your hot water heater, the foundation. Those are the big ticket items. That's the foundation of the house. Because if there's something wrong with that, it can be costly. Okay. Cosmetic stuff, we're not concerned about that. We're concerned about the main arteries, and that's what we try to teach our first time home buyers. And even if we find something wrong with it, we always tell them, cost it out. This is New York City. Inventory is low. If everything is fine with the house and the roof is near the end of its life cycle, so you're gonna have to spend maybe $6,000 to get the roof repaired. Are you going to walk away from the deal after you looked at 30 houses Is it a perfect neighborhood? No. Instead of having that big housewarming where they bring you Target glasses, you save $3,000 this year, $3,000 next year, and you get the roof done. So we try to teach them practical ideas when they're looking at houses because no house is perfect. It's a matter of what are you willing to deal with, and it's about transparency. So you know what the issues are with the house. Going in, you have no surprises as a first-time home buyer. So you know the hot water heater is near the end of its life cycle. A hot water heater is less than $1,000. So these are things that we try to teach them to focus on so they can make an intelligent decision about whether or not they want to purchase this property or not. That's our job.
Hey y'all, Tiffany here. Are you looking to purchase or sell real estate? As you know, I'm your aide to assets and I want to help you with all of your real estate endeavors. Whether you're local here like me in the Fayetteville, North Carolina area, I can then help you purchase or sell your next property. If you're looking to purchase or sell outside of North Carolina, let me know too. I can still help you. I have a team of agents all over the country that I can connect you with to partner on your next deal. Let's get to the closing table, y'all. We buy our way to wealth, whether that's buying right or selling better. Can't wait to hear from you. Click on the link in the bio if you want more information on how to personally work with me or an agent on my team. Talk to you soon. Absolutely. That was such a good explanation because we find people typically, if they're not familiar with the inspection process, in one or two categories. Either one, they get this inspection report back and they're like, wait a minute, what is all of this? What does this mean? There's no way I can buy the house if the inspector said anything. And it's like, wait a minute, the inspector's supposed to say everything so that way you know what happens with the house. And then there's the other group of people who like, why do I need this? I know I really want this house. I just want to buy it. They're so anxious about wanting to purchase a house that they are willing to forego everything that the inspector said in that report. So talk to us. You mentioned the artery. So let's make sure that listeners here, can we recap when we think about the main elements that a investor, first-time home buyer, that they need to be looking at when they receive that inspection report, or even when they're already thinking about just going to look at houses? What are the main components of a house that they need to focus on to make sure it's either in good condition or is in a condition that they know they're willing to work with?
Okay, so the roof, okay, the electrical, the plumbing, okay, you want to make sure that the boiler is in good condition, your hot water heater. We look at foundation. You want to make sure it's always a good idea, and certain mortgages require that you have a termite inspection done. We do a lot of brownstones and older houses. Sometimes it's a good idea to have a sewer scope inspection done. You know, the house might have been renovated from the top to the bottom, but those underground pipes might not be in good condition. So those are the types of things that you want to look at. And, you know, if there's an issue with it, you know, you try to cost it out and see, you know what, if it's not major, if the hot water heater again needs replacing, hot water heaters, we can get one for $800. So that's not a big deal. So you just want to look at those ticket items and make sure that they're in decent working condition. And one of the things we do as home inspectors, we let you know when something is near the end of its life cycle. So that way you already know in your head, you know what? In a couple of years, I'm going to have to replace the boiler. I'm going to have the roof done, this, that, and the other. And I always tell first-time home buyers, this is an investment. You know you're going to get a new boiler that's going to last you 20, 25 years if you maintain it properly. So it's not a bad thing.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about lifespan. When we think about some of those big ticket items, again, the roof, the boiler, hot water heater, those sorts of things, what is the average lifespan for those particular items?
Well, a new roof should last you 15 years. A new boiler, if it's properly maintained, should last 20 to 25 years. One of the things we give our clients is we give them a binder. And in that binder, it's a list of every place in the house they should check at least once a year. And I always
Okay.
say preventive is important. A lot of people don't go to their attic until they're throwing the luggage up there and they never look around until there's a leak or they hear a noise and the pests have moved in.
Yes.
So we try to teach our first time home buyers and we make it super easy for them by giving them this list. And we tell them to make copies of it, put the year on the top. Every year, have a roofer go up and look at the roof. Because when you just need a couple of shingles replaced and you do that consistently, you prolong the life. But if you wait until the whole roof is all the three half are gone, and then it's going to be a costly job. So we try to teach them about maintaining your property, know your house, take a look at your basement every now and then. Like I said, if you maintain these things, it'll last. And if you look at it every year and something's wrong, you're going to know that because you go in your attic once a year with a flashlight and you look around. And when you catch problems when they're small, they're not that expensive. But if you wait until it's big, then it's going to be a costly problem.
That is such good advice. Wow. So can we get a copy of that list so we can share that out?
Okay.
We have to see if we get it. I'm gonna work on that, y'all. Yeah, I'm gonna work on that, y'all. We're gonna get a copy of that checklist so that way y'all can know, especially what to be looking for. And I think that is so critical because also, even early on when we are looking at houses, now we love to go on Zillow and just go look at the pretty houses, but they have all of this extra information on there for a reason. So if we know that this house is 30, 40 years old, that's definitely a question that we need to be asking either our realtor. When was the last time the roof was replaced? Has it been replaced? Because if you're buying a 40-year-old house and the roof has never been replaced, you already know that's going to be an issue. So that's something for you to keep in mind.
Our clients also, if the owner had it replaced, most big ticket items come with a warranty. And the warranty follows the item, not the person. So we always tell them, okay, if this roof is 2 years old, get the warranty information from the seller. That way, that warranty is still in effect, even though it changed owners.
Say that again. Yes. The warranty follows the property, not the owner. That I have not heard it that way. And that is a great way to put it, that these items will still be under warranty. And also that we can negotiate, realtors can negotiate on behalf of clients that are purchasing properties to see what can be fixed. So if your inspector catches something in the report and says this is an issue, you can still negotiate that in your contract to see if maybe that's not even something you have to take on yourself. But if you can get the seller to do it or give you money to do it before you even close, so then you can have that peace of mind and not have to worry about it.
Okay, so one of the things we always advise clients, if they're asking for concessions for repairs, to get a price reduction as opposed to having the seller do the work. Because they're in Florida. They got the cheapest contractor. We don't even know if they have a license, and they did the roof and they said we did it. So we always kind of encourage them to get a price reduction to offset the cost of it. Don't let the seller do the work before you take possession because you don't know the quality of the work that's being done. So that's always a good idea. Ask for the money, not to get the work done.
I love it. The control freak that I am, I want to make sure that I know that it's getting done the way that I want it to be done. So that is always my preference. Just give me some money off and let me hire my own people. And so Okay. So now, how soon should a person get an inspection when they are considering purchasing a house?
Okay. So the market is crazy now. We always teach them, as soon as your offer is accepted, get on the phone and get the inspection done.
Now, what do you say, especially speaking of the market, where I know things are starting to cool down, at least here in North Carolina, things are starting to cool down, but we were at a time where people were waiving inspections. They just wanted their offer to get accepted. What do you tell... What do you tell potential buyers that find themselves facing that challenge?
It starts with the realtor.
Okay.
Any reputable realtor, in my opinion, would not suggest you waive the home inspection to get a strong offer in. Remember we talked about that car, that shiny car on the lot, you're going to pay money for, and you never test drove it. you don't want to do that. This is one of the biggest purchases you'll be making in your lifetime. Why would you waive the home inspection? As a consumer, that's your protection.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, I 100%. I tell people, listen, we got to sit this one out. I believe in abundance. There are more than enough houses. This is just not our house. We can wait on that because you never know what you could potentially be
Never.
walking into.
Now,
And that is
investors are different. Investors have deep pockets. They know that they're going to gut the whole house. If they open up the walls and find this, that, they have a budget for that. A first-time home buyer does not. So I wouldn't walk away from that house and keep looking as opposed to waiving that home inspection because it could be a big, costly surprise when you get in that property.
Absolutely. Got to know our margins and how much money we're dealing with. Now, speaking of those renovations, you did talk a little bit earlier, so I want to circle back to that. You mentioned you also work with clients to tell them what renovations they should prioritize. Can you walk us through a little bit about how someone would consider that?
Okay, so this happens all the time. Wife wants a new cabinet and they need a new boiler. So I always talk to the both of them, but I kind of focus on the wife and I kind of tell her, you know what? These cabinets are really in good condition. You can have them painted, change the hardware on the cabinets, and they'll look like new. Do you want to sit in a house that's cold with new cabinets? The boiler should be comfort. So, we have that conversation about what's cosmetic. I always kind of offer them some kind of compromise, like painting the cabinets, changing the door hardware, or other things they could do just to make them feel good about it, but focus on that important item that they might take care of. Because a hot water heater is funny. When they go, they just flood. Nobody can take a chance with that. So, I would start with things like that and other ticket items. And we go through it. And we find a place that's comfortable for both of them. That's a good compromise. But we make sure the things that should be prioritized are prioritized.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is probably the craziest or most unexpected thing you have seen when doing an inspection in a home?
We did a house that had bees the ceiling.
Wait, what?
The bees kind of took over the ceiling in the basement. It was an area in the back that they kind of used for storage, and no one really was paying attention. And, they had to call in a bee expert to have them removed.
The way my life just flashed before my eyes. I'm allergic to bees, but you can tell they were not following your maintenance checklist once a year.
No, and a lot of times, it's particularly in Brooklyn, in the Flatbush area, those basements, they want to open them up for more space. And a lot of times, they take down support beams or load-bearing walls that support the house. And then the upper floor starts to sag a little bit because they remove those beams. So we always tell clients before they take down a beam, a wall, bring in a structural engineer. Let the structural engineer tell you which beams have to stay there and which walls have to stay there before you do that. Because a contractor will do whatever you want and they'll get paid, and 2 years later, it's sinking. It's starting to sag. So I always say before you call in the contractor, get the structural engineer in there before you remove any walls or beams.
Yes, absolutely. Because the contractor is only going to follow your instructions. If this is what you want in your house, they are going to do it. That is so good. What other professionals do you advise new home buyers or new investors? Who are the people that they need to know in order to make sure that their property is really taken care of?
Okay. I always say if a home is well maintained and you're buying, most likely they have a handyman. Get the handyman's information because he already knows the house and he would love to continue to work for the new client. You should always have a handyman because if your husband was like my late husband, couldn't put up a picture, you need to have somebody that can take care of those things because they start to accumulate. Those little repairs start to accumulate. That little leak that keeps leaking. Your water bill is going to go up. Eventually, the leak is going to get worse. So you need to have a handyman. That's really important. And for aesthetics purposes, we always tell our clients every 4 or 5 years, paint the entire house on the inside. Landscape the outside. Have some. If you don't have time, if we talked about contracting out, it's the same thing with a house. Have someone cut the grass. Have someone treat the grass. That's all part of it. Trim your trees. Make sure no bushes are touching the house because that's going to bring infestation. And like I said, that checklist is so important because it just walks you through every area in the house you need to check, so you don't have to figure out what you need to check. Always have a plumber on hand because stoppages, you have kids like my kids that will put things down the toilet. I don't understand why. You need to have a plumber on hand that you can call and he can take care of things like that. And an electrician is always a good idea, and an exterminator. We tell clients when you see more than 2 bugs, it's time to call someone. Or that rage spraying and this, that, and the other. You need it nipping in the butt before the whole family moves in and their cousin. So you want to make sure that you stay on top of things like that because it's all about preventive. If you see there's an issue, you see there's a problem, nip it in the butt before it gets out of control and become costly.
Absolutely. That is so good. That is so good. I regularly on my Instagram page share monthly maintenance tips for people depending on the season, what is most prevalent, because again, we are buying businesses when we are buying property. And so we need to make sure that we are auditing our business. And in the real estate space, that includes keeping up with the physical property, making sure that everything is running the way that it's supposed to. I love just continuing to focus on preventative things. It sounds like it's a lot, but it's the little small tweaks can lead to giant peaks. And so when we make sure we take care of those little things, it helps us to feel really good. So we don't have this just huge, massive overflow of expenses that we need to cover because we didn't want to do anything and we thought we were just going to save ourselves.
It's just like your body. You don't see the dentist for 2 years. You got cavities, but if you go every year, every 6 months, get your teeth clean, you follow your maintenance routine for your body, see your primary care, so on and so forth, cardiologist, this, that, and the other. Manage your health, manage your house the same way because you're going to get longevity out of it as opposed to always acting in the mode where it's an emergency. Now the water's really coming down now, as opposed to you saw that little spot up there and you just got bigger and bigger, then the water came. So you want to catch things when they're small and walk around your house and look at things. That's so important because that's when you see what's going on.
Absolutely. Being intentional, it's easy. We can walk by something every day and stop actually looking at it. And so being intentional about observing and making sure we're keeping our house in top shape is so good. This has been amazing. You are absolutely wonderful and with so many tips. So 2 last questions. The first one is our audience, like I mentioned, they're typically 9-to-5ers wanting to get started in real estate. And so they're either buying their first home or their first investment property. When you think about the most successful people that have started on this real estate journey, what is similar about them?
That work and continue to learn. Okay. If you surround yourself with like-minded people, okay, you all can build and grow together and support each other. That the entrepreneurship journey is not for everybody. Some people think they can put in a few hours here and there and they're going to be stellar, and it doesn't work like that. Okay, so it's a small pool of people that understand the grind and are hustlers, okay? And those are the people I like to be around. I like to be around the hungry people that are always hustling. They come together, they exchange ideas, and this is important. They're not afraid to share information because when you don't share information, you block your blessings and it's not going to come back to you. But they are not afraid to share information. And they are always learning. They're always learning. They're always learning. They're always reading. They're on the internet. They're looking at trends. They follow trends. I like to track trends because trends are always the next best thing. And if you don't keep your pulse on it, it can easily pass you by. So that's important to me. I found I had so many people that told me, why are you doing this? Like, what's wrong with you? Financially, I was good. But again, my why was different. I just didn't let people decide what I was going to do and how far I was going to go. I decided. I'm in the driver's seat for that. So they were naysayers. There were people that were telling me they're not going to pay that money for your inspection. I knew what product I had, and I knew it was a quality product, and I priced it as such. And those that didn't want to pay, I told them, well, good luck. If you have any questions, you can always call me, but you have to find another inspection because I knew my word. And you have to stand your ground. And when people ask me if that's the best I can do with my price, I tell them, are you a veteran? Are you an educator? Do you work for the city or the state? Because I'll find you a little discount. But other than that, that's the best.
That's the best that we can do. I love it. Okay. And then finally, so we like to vision cast here. And so when we look back on this interview 3 years from now, what's going to be true for you and your business?
I'm going to grow. Okay. I'm hoping that the industry becomes more diverse with more women and people of color. I hope that people learn from my experience and that it inspires them that, just because you're the only one in your field doesn't mean that you can't be great at what you do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I love it. Where can the people find you if they want to get in touch or if they have questions?
Well, if they Google me, they could go online and Google me. I'm on Instagram under my name. They can email me at pillartopost.com/Jacqueline Gather. They can text me at 917-670-8536. And I'm on LinkedIn as well under my name.
Wonderful. And that will all be in the description. So y'all definitely tap in with Jacqueline. Show her some love. I am so grateful for you and all the knowledge that you have shared with us today. Thank you so much for coming on. So cool to get to meet a woman inspector doing amazing work in the state of New York, no less. So just thank you for being you.
Oh, you're welcome. It was my pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. Well, y'all, this wraps up another episode of the Aid to Assets podcast. Go and buy your way to wealth. We'll see you at the closing table. Thank you for tuning in to another insightful episode of Aid to Assets. Remember, your journey from 9-to-5er to successful real estate investor is within reach. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep investing in your future. If you'd like to know more, connect with me on Instagram at Aid to Assets. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Until next time, happy investing.